Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Wednesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm David Percy. And up first, hazardous weather graphics still have that flood advisory that's out for another couple of days until 5 p.m. Saturday. There on the Kenai Peninsula due to elevated river levels, and the greatest chance of minor flooding will be occurring along the Kenai River. So it looks like another couple of days of that flood advisory will hold. And from there, sunrise today at University of Alaska Fairbanks. That's where this photo was taken. And just enough clouds up there to produce a pretty spectacular sunrise, as you can see in the photograph there. And looking at satellite imagery, you can see one band of moisture moving through the panhandle. That brought the temperatures down a little bit there, but as it pushed off to the east, some sunshine broke out and temperatures still rose into the lower, in some cases, mid-70s there in between that and the next band of moisture that's starting to push in toward the coastline again. But definitely cooler temperatures than yesterday there, like the 77 record high at Juneau was down today to a certain extent. And then another break behind that over the Copper River Basin on up across the eastern interior. Pretty nice day with areas of sunshine throughout that area, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. Also some sunshine on the western Arctic coast there as a weak low pulled off to the north, but a lot of clouds over the north slope and down into the interior valley areas. And that front coming in from the west there, kind of running into a split flow. We've got one, you can see it dropping down to the southeast, and this area pushing up to the north, or drop up to the northeast there, and that kind of gave us an extended break here over south central Alaska, southern Alaska today. But that entire pattern shifting to the east, and so that split flow is going to move off to the east, and it'll be increasing the moisture, and the main front, which is back in here, will be moving across and bring some rain in across south central Alaska overnight tonight and into early tomorrow. Otherwise starting to break out back over the Bering Sea and along the Aleutians. On the chart here, you can see the front making landfall along the coast today due to good westerly flow here across the Bering Sea on the south side of that 984 millibar low up there to the north. And another batch of showers coming into the Pribilofs there will be coming into the coast this evening and overnight tonight as the front gets nudged eastward into the interior. A couple of troughs, as we saw, a band of moisture right through here over the panhandle, brought third of an inch of rain today to Sitka. Otherwise, back to the west there, wind and rain associated with this front. Quarter of an inch of rain falling at Bethel, Nome and Koyuk there. Koyuk there in Norton Bay, and of course, everyone knows where Nome is. Had about 4/10 of an inch of precipitation. These are 12-hour amounts. And northwest interior about the same, anywhere from 1 to 4/10 of an inch of precipitation, but lighter amounts there north of the Brooks Range with the downsloping effect. Also, again, some sunshine and clearing over the eastern interior, but clouds starting to increase there as well. And then again, temperatures this afternoon, Ketchikan had 75 degrees this afternoon. And many areas here over the southern panhandle are in the lower 70s, cooler to the north, mostly in the 60s there. And some clearing and southerly winds brought the temperature up to 70 degrees at Gulf Canada today. Moving on to tonight, you can see that front makes a pretty good jog to the east there, getting pushed along by that west-southwest flow coming into the interior. That trough that's off the coast currently will bring another round of precipitation in over the southwest interior, then scatter out to showers and start to end along the coast late tonight. Looks pretty dry over the Bering Sea there for the Pribilofs, but rather breezy. This warm front spreads some warm front type weather again. Usually it's IFR flying with fog, light rain, and drizzle with it, at least to Adak. And rain changes to showers over Kodiak Island, and this area of moisture is shifting off to the southeast with a little bit of high pressure building up in advance of this front. So it should dry out over the at least the coast of the Panhandle. Still a chance of showers down to the south and southeast, but nothing heavy expected. Stays dry over the eastern interior on up to the North Slope and Arctic coast, but chances of rain increase there for the western Arctic coast areas. Heaviest to be along the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range, but the Tanana, mid and upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country should stay dry through the night and also drying out over the Alaska Peninsula. Then for tomorrow, along that frontal boundary, a wave forms just south of Atka, and that warm front progresses eastward, spreads some light rain, fog, and drizzle into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Wind's not too bad. And another weak low here develops just south of the Kenai Peninsula with along the frontal boundary there. So moderate amounts of rain for the North Gulf Coast. Rain starts to taper off tomorrow afternoon once the front gets through northern Cook Inlet for south central Alaska, or at least Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula, and becomes a little more showery. That pattern down into Bristol Bay as well. Should be dry tomorrow afternoon for Kodiak Island in the westerly flow behind this system. Chance of showers or light rain, northern Panhandle, risk of showers over toward the border for the Panhandle. Could see some sunshine again around Prince of Wales Island into Dixon Entrance. Kind of unsettled up there along the Arctic coast, and another trough with another batch of light rains poised to move on to the coast Friday evening there onto the Yukon Delta coast and across Nunivak Island, but drying out over the western Bering Sea and western Aleutians. And moving on to Saturday's outlook, first day of the weekend. Clouds, showers, areas of light rain here across southern Alaska as well as the western interior areas, starting to dry out along the southwest coastal areas in the Norton Sound. Still areas of light precipitation, probably early in the day for the Seward Peninsula, with this low kind of tracking inland now and weakening, so it'll be pretty cloudy and damp over the Kuskokwim Valley and Kuskokwim Delta. Showers into Bristol Bay. Brisk winds there coming up to small craft advisory level winds for the Alaska Peninsula and probably the eastern Aleutians and possibly the Pribilofs as well. And St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisory northerly winds in the forecast there. And for the Panhandle, this trough will bring rain into the southern areas, rain or showers up to the north, and kind of a rainy day for the North Gulf Coast throughout the day on Saturday. And chance of rain in the Copper River Basin, but north of the Alaska Range should be mostly dry again for the mid and upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, right up to the Yukon Flats. Maybe some shower activity for the eastern North Slope. Dry for the north or for the Arctic coast, maybe some areas of fog, but nothing too extensive. And windy conditions, again, as I mentioned, developing here over the eastern Bering Sea with the building high out here to the west and then that low over the southwest interior. And a warm front tries to push some moisture in through the ridge, but it's not going to quite make it even to shimmy in that too until probably Saturday night. Outlook for Sunday is much drier. This low will kick off to the east, and it should possibly for the afternoon be mostly dry south central Alaska with maybe some sunshine. And from there, looking at low temperatures, lower to mid-50s for the southeast coast, lower 50s for the North Gulf Coast, upper 40s to lower 50s, south central Alaska, mostly in the upper 40s for the Copper River Basin. Kuskokwim Valley near 50, lower 50s Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island. Highs for Friday afternoon, mid to upper 50s for northern Cook Inlet, Manuska, Susitna Valley, as well as the Copper River Basin down to Seward, mid-50s around Valdez. Temperatures getting into the lower 60s, Kenai, Soldotna, and Kenai area in the central Kenai Peninsula down toward Homer. Kodiak Island looking at a high tomorrow of about 61 degrees, mid-50s there at Sparrowvon, Sleepmute, and McGrath, and upper 50s for northeast Bristol Bay. Highs in the Panhandle, you can see down for the definitely down from what they've been, upper 50s in the north, and still back into the mid-60s there, especially Prince of Wales Island, and then lows 50 to 55 or lower 50s on Saturday morning for the southeast coast, 40s to lower 50s here for the remainder of this area, and then the high Saturday afternoon. Mostly in the mid to upper 50s, maybe 60 in some areas, Kodiak, Homer area, possibly McGrath, and mostly in the upper 50s to lower 60s, warmest over the southern Panhandle. Up to the north, lows in the 40s for the Arctic coast, North Slope, 45 to 50, near or south of the Brooks Range into the central interior, mid-40s out over the Bering Strait. Highs on Friday afternoon, 65 to 70, Tanana Valley, Yukon Flats area, mid-60s over toward Eagle, lower 60s along the Alaska Range, otherwise 50s everywhere else except the central Arctic coast in the 40s, but 60s possibly for the eastern North Slope on out to the Arctic coast. And then Saturday morning, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Arctic coast, and 40s everywhere else to near 50 in some locations like Kotzebue, Nome, maybe Fairbanks. And highs for the afternoon Saturday, cooler definitely, 40s along the north of the Brooks Range, 50s to near 60 elsewhere. And out in the southwest, lows Friday morning, 40s mostly, lower 50s inland areas, highs in the 50s just about everywhere, mid to upper along the Alaska Peninsula and Adak, followed by lows in the mid to upper 40s, near 50 for Shemya, and along the Alaska Peninsula and Bethel, lower 40s St. Lawrence Island, near 50 for Nome, and highs for Saturday afternoon, 55 to 60 or upper 50s for the southwest interior, and in the 50s over the Bering Sea, except Nikolsky stuck at 49.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, flying weather for Friday morning. Marginal VFR, Arctic coast, North Slope. Then VFR into the central interior there, back across the northern Bering Sea, all of the northwest coast, and then southward there into the Kuskokwim Delta, Kuskokwim Valley, eastward to the western Alaska Range. Marginal VFR, northern central Cook Inlet, western Kenai Peninsula, IFR, southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula and up into Prince William Sound. And just pushing east to Kodiak Island later tonight, becoming marginal VFR there, which extends across the central Bering Sea, more IFR slipping up into the Aleutians. Otherwise, marginal VFR for the entire southeast coast, VFR eastern interior, north of the Alaska Range. That holds into the afternoon. Better flying conditions will be in the east there in the interior, but IFR, Prince William Sound, eastward now to Yakutat, still marginal for the Panhandle, improving Kodiak Island up into southern central Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet, Manaska-Susitna Valley, marginal, Kuskokwim Valley marginal, back into the IFR there along the Yukon River, into the Delta, Pribilofs, Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island, and then right on up into the Kobuk and Koyukuk Valley there, and the western central Arctic coast, area of IFR moving eastward there across the Fox Islands to the Alaska Peninsula. And for the morning Saturday, probably some marginal VFR back into Kodiak Island and Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula. Still IFR, Prince William Sound. Looks like from about Portage eastward there, Yakutat, right into the northern Panhandle, and along the central coast. Marginal VFR for the southern southeast coast. And for the afternoon Saturday, big chunk of IFR there over the central and western part of the state. Southward to Lake Iliamna across the Kuskokwim Valley, but Bristol, Togiak Bay areas, Kuskokwim Bay, marginal VFR. Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Range, same thing. Improving some VFR out over the Aleutians, so not too bad there. And Kodiak, marginal, South Central Alaska, North Gulf Coast, marginal VFR, northern half of the Panhandle, VFR to the south. Notice the eastern interior from the eastern Arctic coast down to the Copper River Basin. Forecast to have VFR flying. And for Anaktuvik, go IFR tomorrow, a little bit better to the east there. Adigan, marginal VFR. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR throughout the day Friday, most of the time. Rainy, mostly marginal VFR. Windy, marginal VFR, lowest conditions, southern entrance. Isabel, possible marginal VFR in the south entrance, otherwise VFR. And same thing for Mentasta, southern entrance, best chance of that'd be where the lowest flying conditions will be tomorrow. And for Tanita, starting out IFR, improving to marginal VFR into the afternoon. Portage, IFR, and Chilkoot and White, marginal. For the freezing levels, about 6,000 feet or so over interior Alaska, all the way up to the Arctic coast, and then southern Alaska, especially the southern Bering Sea there, 8 to 14,000 feet, 8 to 10,000 feet across the Panhandle. And icing system moving in brings considerable moderate rime icing, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, otherwise isolated moderate rime icing in the shaded area up across the Yukon River there to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. And maybe the Yukon Delta coast, another batch of moisture sliding eastward there. And then heavier icing over the Aleutians, but you got to get up to about 12,000 feet with those high freezing levels there. So 12 to 20,000 feet in that area. And icing threats increasing as you approaching the northern coast of the Panhandle. And jet stream Good strong flow across the southern Bering Sea up to 135 knots and westerlies 100 to 125 just south of Kodiak Island, diminishing to 95 knots as they approach the central coast of the Panhandle. Lighter up to the north on the cold side of the jet. And for 9,000 feet, 40 to 45 knot west-northwesterlies in the Bering Sea increase to about 60 knots as they blow across Atka Island, and west 35 for Kodiak Island. For 3,000 feet, low over St. Lawrence Island, and another low there up over the northeast interior. So westerlies 35 to 45 knots across the Bering Sea, a little stronger out to the west there, but diminishing as you get over the interior. Turbulence-wise, considerable moderate chop, Bristol Bay, say Dillingham, down along the Alaska Peninsula, as well as the Fox Islands, light to isolated moderate chop, areas of east side of Kodiak Island.
Hello, star fans! Our ancestors looked up at the night sky and wondered what it was all about. On a clear moonless night, they could see thousands of stars, and over the centuries, humanity played a celestial game of connect the dots, creating patterns that represented objects, animals, or people, and we call these patterns constellations. Let's find one of the first named constellations, Auriga, the charioteer. Hit the darkness at 5 a.m. and look northeast to find Capella. That's Auriga's left shoulder, and here, we're gonna help you. Ancient peoples created stories about morality, love, and courage involving many constellations, even made up ones. There are currently 88 officially recognized constellations. Some are people, animals, there's even a microscope up there. You can create new ones for fun too, there's nothing stopping you. Make the stars your own and keep looking up.
We're at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're about 20 minutes before the launch of ICESat-2. You might see the white light off in the distance. That's the Delta II rocket.
It kind of feels like an idea that was always going to just stay an idea. But no, it's real. It's sitting on top of the rocket.
You know, and for me, it's kind of surreal. Like you say, it's been 10 years, and it's hard to believe. It's like, we're really here? This is really about to happen? It's totally cool.
This is Dr. Tom Newman. Over the years, his work has taken him to some pretty remote areas to study changes in the ice regions of our planet. And his research, among many others, has defined the goals of the new NASA satellite, the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICESat-2.
And we have ignition. And
the story of ICESat-2 really begins with ICESat-1. ICESat told us all kinds of cool things about the ice sheet and about sea ice that we didn't really know to ask. That data allowed us to measure elevation change of ice sheets in a way that we hadn't been able to before, and showed that all the action on the ice sheets, the places that were really changing quickly, were around the edges. So when we were thinking about what could we do better next time, we knew that was one key component.
In addition to the edges of the ice sheets, ICESat-2 needed to measure a dimension of sea ice that remained elusive: its thickness. To figure out how thick sea ice is, you can measure the height of ice sticking out of the ocean, or freeboard, and compare it to the height of water between the sea ice flows, called leads.
The problem is, sea ice is really dynamic, and those cracks open and close various places in the ice pack throughout the day, throughout the year, and what we need to do is have measurements of the ocean whenever it's available, wherever it occurs in the sea ice pack.
To solve that problem, ICESat-2 was designed with a fast pulsing laser instrument to take precise, near-continuous measurements across its 3 pairs of beams. For 10 years, everything about the mission was designed to measure rapid changes in the most rapidly changing part of the cryosphere. But it has to get into space first.
But it's a huge transition going from the ground to in space. We've spent better part of 10 years, thousands of people have been involved, and actually seeing the rocket there on the pad with all of that work kind of all put together in one place, it's pretty amazing. And then getting up in the middle of the night to go watch the actual launch, it's sort of surreal in a way, because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, you know, it's a big deal.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's off. That's 1.
That was awesome. Totally cool. There it went. That was Atlas. The last Delta II, heading on out.
So Atlas has been turned on over the course of the first few weeks of the mission, really culminating for us with the laser. So this is our first look at sea ice data from ICESat-2, and it looks fantastic. The signal levels look great. We've got plenty of photons there. We're capturing ridges. We can clearly see the ocean. All sorts of cool stuff in there, and this is just our first data. It's only going to get better from here on out.
The data from ICESat-2 is well on its way into digging deeper into the unknown dimensions of sea ice sheets, and glaciers. It will shed light on changes in sea level and global weather patterns, and once again find new things about ice we didn't know to ask.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
Slight chance the flight may see ICESat-2 in their center windscreen. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6,
That's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the sea ice today, not much change up there along the Arctic coast, although that area up along the coastline seems to be getting a little narrower with time, and otherwise not much of a difference from yesterday or the day before even. And for the coastal water forecast, look for west to northwest winds 15 to 20 knots on the south coast of the Panhandle, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots on the north coast. Central and northern inner channels, winds will be southerly at 15 for the day Friday. Clarence Strait, looking at a northwest wind at 15 knots. And for the day Saturday, south coast, 20 to 25 knot winds out of the southwest, seas up to 10 feet. Small craft advisories on the north coast as well, with south to southwest winds at 25 knots. Small craft advisories can have a bigger increase in the winds over the central and southern inside waters, looking at southerlies at 30 knots there. Lynn Canal and the northern inside channels, winds will be south at 15. Cook Inlet tomorrow, south to southwest winds 20 knots, southwest 15 for Kamishak Bay. For the North Gulf Coast, winds will be south to southwest at 25 knots, southwest winds 25 knots in the forecast for the Barren Islands, and Prince William Sound winds are southeast at 20. And then on Saturday, lighter winds in store for Prince William Sound, in fact, everywhere, really laying down, variable to northeast at 10 knots there for the Sound and the North Gulf Coast, variable winds at 10 knots. Barren Islands, variable winds 10 knots. Kamishak Bay, variable winds at 10 knots. Cook Inlet, about the same. We'll call it west at 10 south of the Forelands, north at 10 for northern Cook Inlet. Kodiak Island for Friday, southwest winds 20 to 25 knots. Alaska Peninsula, southwest winds 20 knots, seas 7 to 9 feet. And Bristol Bay also looking at a southwest wind at 20 knots with 7-foot seas on Friday. And for Saturday, west at 15 knots for Bristol Bay, seas at around 5 feet. Small craft advisories though for the Alaska Peninsula. West and northwest winds 25 to 30 knots. Lighter winds for Kodiak Island, variable to west 10 to 15 knots. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, winds southwest 20 knots, 6 to 9 foot seas. Adak and Atka, west-southwest 15 to 25 knot winds. And for the western Aleutians, west to southwest winds 15 to 25 knots. For Saturday, for the western Aleutians, west to southwest winds at 15 to 20 knots. Central Aleutians, west 20 to 25 knot winds with 8-foot seas. And some small craft advisories out for the Fox Islands for Saturday. Northwest winds 25 to 30 knots, seas up to 11 feet. For the southwest coast, small craft advisories for the Yukon Delta coast for southwest winds at 20 knots. Southwest 20-knot winds for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, as well as the Pribilof Islands with seas around 10 feet. West 25-knot winds and 14-foot seas for St. Matthew Island. St. Lawrence Island, winds southwest at 20 knots. And for the day Saturday, St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisories, north winds increasing to 25 knots. In the Yukon Delta coast, small craft advisory, northwest winds 30 knots. South of Nunivak Island, northwest winds 25 knots. And the Pribilofs looking at northwest winds at 25 knots with 10-foot seas, and west 25 for St. Matthew Island. For the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, south to southeast winds at about 15 knots tomorrow. For the central coast, northeast at 15. Western Arctic coast, northeast at 20. And south 15 knots from Wales to Cape Thompson. And for Saturday, from Cape Beaufort to Wales, small craft advisories, north winds 25 knots, north 20-knot winds in the forecast for the western Arctic coast. Central Arctic coast, north winds at 15 knots, and east-northeast winds 10 to 15 knots for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And for tonight, front pushes eastward finally, gets a little bump from those westerlies coming across the Bering Sea, and it'll finally push some heavier rain in across south-central Alaska, especially on the North Gulf Coast and the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range or western Susitna Valley tonight, but wet conditions spreading in, but stays dry over the eastern interior. Some isolated to scattered shower activity along the Panhandle in the south. And for the day on Friday, next week wave spread some warm front rains and fog into the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, rain moderate to heavy at times for the North Gulf Coast, and periods of rain becoming a little more showery in the afternoon for south central Alaska, but looks wet over the central and western interior, and a little drier over the east side over toward the border. Shower chances the greatest over the northern Panhandle or along the border areas. And for Saturday, first day of the weekend, looks pretty wet for the southern southeast coast, although improving. And Saturday, showers south central Alaska, but it looks a lot drier on Sunday for southern Alaska. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.